All right, 3, 2, 1. Hi, Henry. Hello, Alina. Welcome back, Young. Nancy, welcome. Georgette. Cindy, nice to meet you. Welcome to today's webinar. Disclosures and more using Glide. We'll wait a minute or two to see who all logs in. And then we'll get started. Hi, Cindy. Were you here for the last class or this morning's class? Welcome, Nasser. I was at Glide Offers this week. Awesome. How was that? I have not seen that yet, but my training account just got remodified as of 20 minutes ago, so it may be there, but we'll probably have a class on that one. I really like the potential of it as well. I think being able to submit an offer or create an offer and then have it directly submitted to the listing agent is always a really cool thing, especially from within the MLS. I think that's going to be really, really powerful for a lot of people. So yeah, definitely Glide has gone above and beyond what it started off to be 2 years ago, which was just a tool for creating a disclosure workflow for your sellers to quickly and easily fill out the seller disclosures. But I think this is going to be a really fun class today. It may be a little bit longer than an hour, but I want to show you all the new possibilities of what Glide can do now as being a full-on free member benefit offered to you by both C.A.R. and C.R. MLS in Orange County. Yes, can't wait for the MLS button to test it. Well, technically they already have an MLS button. Oh, you're talking about for the instant offer, right, Cindy? Gotcha. Yeah, they do have an MLS button, which I find really awesome right now when you're creating transactions for, say, buyers or tenants, because you can import that MLS data directly onto your contracts, which we'll have fun doing that today. And I'm hoping that they'll have even more tools by April. Yeah, I definitely like that one. All right, well, I want to respect everybody's time. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for attending this afternoon's class. If you've been here with me since this morning, thank you all for being with me all day long today. We're going to have fun today going over disclosures and more using your free member benefit tool called Glide. Now, just for those of you who don't know who I am, because I do see a lot of unfamiliar faces here today, which is awesome. My name is Anthony. And I work here at Orange County Realtors, been here now for a little over 18 years, started off in the MLS department. So I know guaranteed I'll speak to everyone here today regarding rules, regulations, violations, all that fun stuff. What I'm also involved with is our outreach program. Our outreach program is designed to give you training on all your tools and products. So not only do I train on MLS, how to run searches, how to modify listings, creating CMAs, but I also train on zipForms. So how to put together your transactions electronically, how to digitally sign them, and of course, all the advanced tools that zipForms does have to offer. But I also train on technology. I love showing agents how to utilize all their tools, how to utilize their mobile tablet devices to be better agents, to go paperless in your business. And of course, I love showing you all your free member benefit products out there to make your transactional lives a lot easier. Now, just real quickly, Glide, if you're not familiar with Glide, and actually, before I get started, just want to let everybody know today, we are recording today's webinar. Everybody attending today will get a copy of today's class, if not later today, tomorrow. So if I do go over something fairly quickly, please stop me, raise your hand, put it in the chat or put it in the questions area. I'll be more than happy to read back your question and then answer it. But if you forgot to ask a question or you felt, oh, I don't want to ask that question, we are recording today. And what's nice about a recording is that you can watch it a million times. You can fast forward it. You can rewind it. You can pause it. You can do whatever you want. Okay. So I want to make sure that all the agents, including yourselves, get the full experience of your tools. So speaking of which, Glide. Now, Glide has been a Orange County Realtors member benefit now for a little over 2 years. And what this tool allowed us to do, this third-party source, allowed agents to do is create packets for their sellers to send out the seller disclosures to have the seller be able to easily and quickly fill out the TDS and the SPQ. Okay. If you're familiar with those forms, the TDS stands for the Transfer Disclosure Statement. The SPQ stands for the Seller Property Questionnaire. And what these forms allowed the seller to do is answer questions about the property. In zipForms, you are limited, or you are limited to what you can fill in on that form. I think you can fill in the top section of page 1, which is the property address, the client's names, and then page 3, where you can fill in a couple of extra blurbs of what you have been witness to as disclosure. But pages 2 and mostly 3 are all questionnaires that sellers had to fill in. Now, the old traditional way, I send it out as a PDF to the client prints it out, fills it out, scans it, resends it back to me, and I've got it deciphered chicken scratch. Or the newer method, which was sending it out for signatures, whereby seller 1 could not only fill out the form, but also sign and initial the form and allow seller 2 to initial and sign the form. The problem with that, however, was that maybe because all the boxes were considered optional, the client misfills out the form. They forgot to check mark the water heater, but they said that they have a gas water heater. They forgot to choose other items in the house. Now, what do you have to do? You've now got to resend it out through digital signatures to the client for them to refill it in all over again. Became such a hassle. This is where the power of Glide came in. Glide came in and said it took this form and put it into an easy digestible format to allow the seller to fill out the form. Okay. Instead of looking at the form in its entirety, it took every section and allowed them to answer the questions one at a time. And it would not allow the seller or sellers to skip over any questions. They had to fill out everything on that form. They could still pick and choose items that were or were not defective. They could still pick out what items were or were not in the house. Okay. But at least it took them through the process. And we are going to go over that today. But today, Glide is more. Not only is this not only a Orange County Realtors member benefit, but as you notice that last year, with coronavirus being so prevalent, the challenge of getting people to view a property without having to do the PEAD form was almost nil to none, right? Very quickly, C.A.R. MLS partnered up with Glide to allow you as an agent to send out the PEAD-V form for your client's signature to have them sign it and it automatically be submitted to the listing agent for your showing. Now, with 2021 here upon us, C.A.R. is now offering Glide as a member benefit to allow you as an agent to create transactions for your buyers, your sellers, your leases, and your leaseors, just like you could in zipForms. So what does this mean now? It means now that Glide and zipForms are platform of choice, meaning you as a real estate agent now have a choice to use either Glide to make your transactions electronically, or you can still use zipForms to create your transactions electronically. So either one or both. So today's class is going to go over how we can access all this and do this very quickly and simple. Now, by any chance, do I have anybody that has not signed up for a Glide account yet? And again, you can type that into the chat if you wish. So it sounds like everybody's got at least a Glide account activated. Good. So I'm not going to overly bore you with signing up, but I will go through the process. Now we can access Glide in a couple of ways. One, we can go directly to CAR.org's website. So that's www.car.org. Okay, here at the state level website, this is where we can now go to this big round circle that we're used to going to access zipForms. But now, as of January, it now says Realtor Secure Transactions. So you may go, well, geez, how do I access zipForms? What's this transaction button here for? Well, now, because Glide is also a C.A.R. member benefit, and with what Glide can now do, when we go and click on that round circle, we now see that under the C.A.R. member benefits, we can still access our zipForms account, but we can also access our Glide account. Now, if you've not created a Glide account before, just simply click on Access Glide here. Now, the other way to access Glide is to simply go to their website, www.glide.com. And from here, we can go under their plans for an agent. And down below, we're going to see here under agents that there is a free member benefit. Now, we do not need to worry about the pro plan at $45 per month. Okay, we're going to be able to access all of our free member benefits here through the member benefit account. What we're going to then do is click on Get Started. And when we click on Get Started, we are going to now go through the process. Oops. Sorry, I thought I had signed out here. Let's try this again. Hopefully it's logged me out. There we go. From here, we're going to put in our first name, our last name, our email address. Okay. Ideally, I want it to be the same email address that I have registered on all my accounts, like C.A.R., CRMLS. Okay. And then you're going to create your password. Now, your password is going to be unique to you. You can make it the same as C.A.R. You can make it the same as MLS, and maybe you've got everything the same as it is now, then make it the same. Then you're going to click on sign up. Now, when you click on sign up, it's going to walk you through the sign up process. Like, would you like to link your C.A.R. account, your CRMLS account, other things. Now, if you've already created an account before and you've already done this maybe a year or so ago, we do need to modify our accounts just a little bit, especially if you haven't done the PED form through CRMLS or you haven't done the seller's disclosures through C.A.R. Very simply, log into your account. When you log into your account, oops. We're going to go in here. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to come over here towards the top right corner to click on our initials. When we do that, we're going to now get a drop-down menu list of choices here. We're going to choose account settings. Now, under the account settings choice here, we're going to start with our profile. Our profile information here, we're going to make sure we have an uploaded photo of ourselves. This is great for anytime we send out an email request from within Glide, whether it's a digital signature request or a disclosure request, or in the future, submitting offer requests to the listing agent. We want people to recognize who we are. Make sure you upload a current photo of yourself. Down below, you can upload your brokerage information, right? Make sure that's all current, including your DRE license number. Upload your company logo. Now, from here, we're also now going to, after we upload this information and we hit save, we're now going to come over back to the left-hand side and click on account preferences. Here under our account preferences, this is where we can go and modify our password. But more importantly, down below here, assistants and TCs. Now, this has been something that's always been challenging for zipForms that Glide is going to be really helpful for you as an agent. How many of you here today have an assistant or a TC for your office, or that you have your own personal TC? Couple of people? Yes, I see a couple of hands raised. Awesome, Michelle. Great. So in zipForms, you're not able to create or give access to a TC to your account without having to pay zipForms an astronomical fee of about $400 per year to give TCs or other agents access into your account. You have to create a username and password for them, and now they can go into your account. Here, however, in Glide, you can now invite a TC or an assistant to access your entire Glide account. They can make transactions on your behalf. They can modify the transactions on your behalf, or even better yet, they can send out the seller disclosure requests on your behalf. They have full-on access to your account. Just simply type in their email address and click invite to invite the person into your account. They will then be prompted for free to create a username and a password. And again, let me reiterate this. This is for free. Now, those of you who are on teams, you can also invite your teammates to access your account. So if you're the team lead, you can now invite your team support to access your account to be able to create transactions under your name. Again, all for free. That's under your account preferences. The next big one that we are going to modify is integrations and memberships. When we click on this choice at the very top where it says single sign-on, this is where we want to make sure that we link our C.A.R. account and our C.R. MLS account. Linking both of these accounts to your Glide account will now give you your full member benefits offered by both C.A.R. and C.R. MLS. If you only have one linked, like as an example, C.A.R., then the only ability that you'll be able to do is create transactions and get transactions signed. When you link your C.R. MLS account, this will allow you and afford you the capability of sending out the seller disclosure request, sending out the PEAD form request for buyers to sign, all through it, or all within and through the MLS platform. And eventually, they will have an instant offer button for you as an agent to immediately create and submit an offer to the listing agent through the MLS. That's what we have to look forward to in the next coming weeks. Just simply click on link account, find the account you need to link, in this case, maybe C.R. MLS. And from there, you're going to put in your user ID and password for the MLS. Once you do that, the system will ask, would you like to link the account? And you're going to say yes. And I'm sorry, I accidentally closed out of my window. Once you've done those things under your account settings, now just simply click on where it says Glide and come back to your transaction screen. Are there any questions on the setup? Anybody already done this? One or two hands raised. Awesome, Cindy. Great. Yes, awesome, Michelle. All right, so now here in Glide, we're going to now create a transaction. So now, by the way, prior to January this year, because Glide only did the seller's disclosures, there used to be a link between Glide and zipForms, whereby if I created a zipForms transaction, Glide would have automatic access to that transaction. If I sent out the seller's disclosures from within Glide, I could push those documents directly into my zipForms account. Unfortunately, as of January of this year, January 14th of this year, that relationship between Glide and zipForms has been dissolved. So if I create a transaction in Glide, zipForms will not have access to it. If I create a transaction in zipForms, Glide will not have access to it. These are now two separate independent transactional platforms. Doesn't mean that you can't use one over the other. Doesn't mean that you can't use both at the same time. Just know that if you create a transaction in one, the other one is not going to be able to look at that transaction. Now, the reason why this is there is that this is now making you choose which one you would like to use. And again, you can use both at the same time. Some of these features you'll like to use on one and not the other, vice versa. Try it out. I think the more diverse you are in knowing what you can do, the more diverse you're going to be able to be to face certain situations that may come around in the future. Okay. And what I mean by that is eventually, if, say, zipForms dissolved itself and decided to no longer be associated with C.A.R., at least you have a platform that you've been used to using and seeing in Glide. So just something to think about. All right. So here at our transaction tab here, we are now going to want to make a transaction. As we all have experienced how easy it is to make a transaction in zipForms, it's a simple couple of clicks of a button, right? And then all we got to do is just click new, put in the property address or name the transaction, choose the transaction type, hit save, and then start adding in documents. And now I've got to start filling out everything from scratch, right? Okay. Now we have kind of a workflow here when we create a transaction in Glide, but what's going to be really nice is what the workflow that I'm following will be the work information that's going to be placed on documents or in forms the moment I add a form to the transaction. Now, how we make a transaction is very simple. We're going to come over here towards the top right corner. We're going to click on new transaction. When we do that, it's going to ask me who's the primary agent. I can make myself, or if I have my team members, I can now tie it to one of my team members. Okay. But very simply, I'm going to select myself if I'm making a transaction under my name. When I go next, it's going to ask me for the address. Now we've got a couple of things here. Number one, I can fill in the address from scratch. Street address, unit number, city, state, and zip code. Now, if I'm representing a buyer or a tenant, I could still do that, but wouldn't I like to have some of that MLS data pulled over? Anybody familiar with the button called MLS Connect in zipForms? Michelle, you do? Okay, good. What is MLS Connect? Do you know? Can you tell our audience? MLS Connect in zipForms allows people or allows you to import MLS data directly onto your contracts, right? You simply just type in the MLS number, and now it pulls not only the address, but the list price, the list date, the listing agent's information, all ready to be placed onto the contracts. Now, here in Glide, when we're making the transaction, we do have kind of an MLS Connect button here. So after we select ourselves as the agent, we can now choose to either fill in the address ourselves, or we can say, fill in information from the MLS. When I select that choice, just simply choose what MLS system you're with, in this case, California Regional Multiple Listing Service, and then type in the MLS number to the property. So today what we're going to do is we're going to create a transaction for a buyer. Okay. Now in this case, in my demo, I love using this old MLS listing number just because it's easy for me to remember. And then I'm going to hit continue. From here, it finds the property data from the MLS. It says what the address is, bedroom, bathrooms, list price, who the listing agent is, the year built, all ready to be placed on my documents or on my forms. I'm now going to hit continue. Now it immediately asks me what type of transaction are we creating? Are we creating a listing for sale? Are we creating a purchase offer for a buyer? Are we creating a lease listing for a landlord? Or are we creating a lease for a tenant? Now, if you're importing MLS data from your MLS, typically you're doing that for either a buyer or a tenant. The opposite would happen if I'm putting the address in from scratch myself. Then I'm probably typically creating a listing transaction for either a seller or a landlord, because technically I don't have any properties in the MLS yet to import. And if I'm importing another agent's listing onto my contracts for the listing, I'm going to have to rewrite over all that stuff that's already there on the listing for my contracts, because my list price is going to be different. My list dates are going to be different. The listing agent information is going to be different because it's under my account. So that pulled data from the MLS is not necessarily great if you're representing a seller. Now, if you're doing the seller's disclosures and you're using Glide in lieu of zipForms, then by all means do that. But typically in our mindset, that's what we're looking at doing. Now we're going to hit continue. I'm choosing purchase. Currently right now, this is pre-contract because it's not in escrow just yet. So this is all pre-contract. Now I can apply templates if I have a template. If I don't have a template, don't worry about adding a template. Just simply hit continue. Now, by the way, you'll notice that bar down below indicates how much I'm done or completed so far on my workflow. Now here we have found an existing Glide transaction that looks similar. Would I like to use the following transaction? No, I'm going to create a new transaction here in this case. At this point, I can add in a buyer's agent, a secondary buyer's agent. So maybe my friend Leo is my co-buying agent. He and I are partnering up on this deal. I can now add him in to be my secondary agent on this listing, right? I type in his first name, his last name, his email address, his brokerage information. If necessary, I can invite him to access this transaction. So even though he doesn't access all of my transactions, I can invite him to access this one if I choose. But if I don't worry about it. And of course, I'm going to then hit save. Now, if I don't have another buying agent, not a problem, don't add it in. I can also invite my broker to access this transaction as well. So I can now give access to my broker to my transaction. So if I have anybody here that's brand new, that's working with a mentor, you can add those people in as part of the transaction. Okay. Or we add them in as a team member or a TC. So if I didn't add the TC in to look at all of my transactions, and maybe in this one instance, I hire a TC that's outside of my company, I can invite that TC to access this one and only transaction, or invite that team member like broker, office administrator, office assistant, whoever to access this transaction. That way they can review my documents and tell me if I'm doing things correctly or not. Again, this is a great mentoring style tool for us if we're brand new agents. Anybody here a brand new agent? Oh, real quickly, Michelle asked, how do I transfer templates from zipForms to Glide? Unfortunately, Michelle, you cannot. So you're going to have to create new templates in Glide. So what I would probably do is go into zipForms, jot down the forms that you have in those templates, and then you're going to come into Glide and we're going to go and create new templates. And I'll show you how to do that today, if you wish. Does that help? Got it. Awesome. All right. So here, I don't have anybody here. I'm not going to add anybody. I'm just going to go next. From here, I can add in my buyers. So very simply, I can just now click on create a new contact. They are an individual. I can type in their name, first name, last name, and their email address. That's all I really need. And then say save. If it's more than one buyer, just simply click on add a buyer, type in their next information. First name, last name, email address. And then hit save. Now, we've got buyer one, buyer two. What happens if there's a third buyer or a fourth buyer? Guess what? We can add as many buyers as we need to, right? Select the entity, first name, last name, email address, save. We can now add in buyer three, buyer four. Now, even though we're adding in buyer three, buyer four, this does not necessarily put their names on the contracts. Currently, right now, the contracts only have space for buyer one and buyer two. There is no space for a buyer three or buyer four. This is where other forms like the ASA, the additional signature addendum, will need to be used when it comes to that transaction, because we have more than two clients that need to represent this. Francis asks, is this being recorded? Yes, Francis, it is being recorded. And everybody attending today will get a copy of that recording. All right. Let's see here. We're adding in our buyers. Oh, by the way. Oh, thank you, Francis. Anybody ever been faced with somebody buying or selling a property under a trust name? Probably some of you. Here, when we're adding in a buyer, there is a choice here that under the buyer entity type, when we click on that down arrow, typically our buyers and sellers are usually individuals. But if the property was vested in a trust or an LLC, in this list, we can now select, as an example, the trust. Then we're going to type in what the trust name is, right? The Herrera Family Trust. Now, down below, there is now a change of first name to last name to representative's first name, representative's last name. So at this point, they will now be, if I say Leo Herrera, and then down below, I can now call him, he's the trustee, that's his title, and put in his email address here. Now, what's going to happen is this. As an example, in the purchase agreement, on page 1 of the purchase agreement, what entity is buying the property, it will say, or selling the property, the Herrera Family Trust. But under seller 1 or seller 2, whoever I've made the representative of this trust name will now have their name trustee. So it will say the Herrera Family Trust is maybe selling this property, but Leo Herrera, trustee, is signing for that trust. Does that make sense, everybody? So what we can now do is put in the trust information and put in the representative of that trust, which, by the way, if we know that the property is being bought or sold in a trust, we know that we got to do extra paperwork like the RCSD, representative capacity signature disclosure, right, which will be required for our files, because that person needs to make sure that they provide us proof that they are allowed to sign for that trust or LLC. Okay. Definitely talk to your brokers or office managers about how to word that. or what you need to specifically do, but just know that Glide will afford you the ability to do this. zipForms does the same way, except that under the signature area as well as the name areas, it will still say the trust name or the LLC name, but the person signing, if you designate it under the parties, will say who the party is, trustee, in the signature portion. It won't say it on the printed signature areas, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. So from here, we're going to click continue. When we hit continue, in 3, 2, 1, we're going to now be taken to the property summary information. Here we can review the parties, add parties, or delete them. Here we've got the property data information. Here under the listing information, we get to see the listing of the property if we're listing the property, but because we are making an offer on this property, we do have purchase information here that we can type in. Now this works and acts very similar to the cover sheet or the summary screen in zipForms. So whatever information that's been filled out in this section will be automatically filtered and put in on the contracts once I decide to place the or add in contracts. So as an example here, maybe I'm putting in a purchase price of $950,000. The cash balance being, I don't know, let's go 900,000. Deposit will be 25,000. And then we can add in some key dates if necessary, like offer acceptance, which is great for us. Listing agreement date, earnest money deposit due. We can add in all this workflow to give us reminders of what we need to do once that property gets accepted. Okay. We can even down below add in commission pertaining to the purchase commission or the buying or the listing commission. So maybe if I knew that the commission percentage was 2.5%, and of course, all the other information, which is great for my records. Okay. Now from here, I click on continue. And now we've officially created the transaction in zipForm or in Glide. Now this process is going to tend to go a little bit faster, but today we're going a little bit slower just to show you all your options and what your workflow is going to be like. So now with the transaction created for 4,200 via Arbolona, Avalada, we now need to add in contracts. Now we can do this in one of two ways, or actually we have now several things that we can do. Here are some suggested workflows, like completing the AVID for this transaction. We can actually submit the PED form to get to see this transaction. We can send documents out for signatures. We can request a buyer's inspection and elections. Okay. Or we can add forms to the transaction. Now we can do that from here or over towards the left-hand side and click on documents here. Either way, we are now taken to a screen, and if we choose add documents, we can now add from the libraries of forms that C.A.R. has to offer us, or we can upload documents directly from our computer, like PDF files. So if you're familiar with the add docs button in zipForms, you can upload PDF files into the transaction. But here today, simply, we're going to click on add from a library. Now we have access to more than 395 plus C.A.R. forms for buying, selling, leasing properties in the state of California. To add a form, just simply select the form that you need and then choose add a document. Or you can select multiple forms. So you can go up and down this list, selecting everything that you need for this transaction, and then come down below and choose add the number of documents. Now, what you can do to very quickly and easily find the forms, just at the very top here where it says search, just type in, say, the form number, like RPA. Once you find it, select it. If you don't know the form number, but you know part of the form name, like disclosure, now all of a sudden the forms list sorts to give you every form that has the word disclosure in it. Now, again, all I need, find it, select it. And now you'll notice here I can add in 2 documents or 2 forms just by quickly and easily finding them, selecting them. I don't have to click and add like I do in zipForms. So I can now add in all the necessary forms in one fell swoop. Now, all I need to do at this point is click on the form to begin to edit the form. Francis asks, does the library also include the natural hazard booklets? I do believe so. So let's see here. Let's close out. I do believe if we go to add a document, add from the library, we should see here. Oh, where is it? Exchange, business opportunity related to COVID, trust, I think. What was it? Lead-based paint. There we go. So it's all found under the California Realtors Library. So if you happen to know the form number, just simply the FLD, lead-based paint hazard disclosure, and acknowledgement. I do believe they do have those booklets. So hazard. So the tenant flood hazard disclosure, we've got all the other disclosures, earthquake. And if they don't have that in here just yet, that's interesting. Oh, there it is. So we take that out. There you go. Environmental hazards, lead-based paint. They're just calling it California statutory disclosure booklets. So here we've got all of those, including the signature page. Fantastic. Excellent. I'm so glad, Francis. All right. So here we can add those in. Now all we need to do is just simply click on the form, and now we can begin to edit the form. Now, a couple of things here that I really, really like a lot. Number one, we automatically get to see that because I created the transaction and it was asking me for information like client information, my information is automatically typed in as well as the address of the property. Most of that information is already pre-filled in, right? Pulled the information from the MLS Connect that I imported in. I imported my client's data as well as my information. Now all I need to do is go through and fill in some of the specifics. But you notice here when I put under that purchase information, how much we were purchasing the property for, what my deposit was, and of course what our remaining balance is. Okay, so we've got all that fun stuff. Now, a couple of things here real quick. All I need to do is just click in a box, fill in the information. Over here towards the left-hand side, this is a really great tool for the purchase agreement. And what this tool allows us to do is very simply jump to a section and fill in the information. Okay, so if I needed to go closing possession, it goes now down to the section of the form where I can now type in the information pertaining to that section of the form. So far, I've only noticed this with the purchase agreement. Okay. Over here to the far right, we see the number of pages. We can now jump to the pages anywhere in this list. But one major thing I'd like to bring to your attention is this. If you'll notice that down to the bottom of the page, there are these little blocks at the bottom of the page. This indicates that Glide has already set up or preset up the initial or signature areas on a form. So right now, my buyers will initial on this form in these spots. Not all 4 spots, but it indicates where my buyers would be signing. And we haven't even started digital signing yet. So not only can I see all the fillable areas of all the forms, but I can now see where the signature areas have been pre-placed on the document. 90% of our forms already have these areas pre-placed. That's how easy it is to fill in these forms. Now, uploading a PDF file, really simple. Sometimes some of us have a company disclosure, or even better yet, maybe Francis has submitted her offer or counter offer to me, right? That my client needs to accept or review. I get emailed that document. I can now take that email, download the document on my computer, and here in Glide, I can go under the transaction and go to where it says add docs and upload a copy of that document onto my computer or onto my transaction. So here, if I have one, let's go with, geez. And of course, I don't have my standard ones here, but that's okay. Actually, do I have it under downloads? Of course I don't. So that's all right. Let's go back to my desktop and I'll just grab a form. So let's grab a PDF file and we're going to upload it. Actually, let's try that one. We're going to upload it. Now, we've got that PDF file added. Here, I can now make sure that if I choose this document to be digitally signed, I just have to indicate on this document where the signer needs to sign an initial. But here's an added bonus. How many of you would like to make sure that, like as an example, listing agents, you've received that purchase agreement from the buyer, and you got page 10 on the purchase agreement where you would need to have the seller's name typed in on that form, and obviously the buying agent doesn't know who your client's name is, so they didn't type it already on there, right? And in zipForms, the only way to modify that PDF is through the e-signature platform, where I have to now place those tasks in through e-signatures. Well, here's something very unique with Glide. With Glide, I can now click on this PDF file. And when I open up this PDF file, you're going to notice here at the top right corner, I can now modify or add in things onto this PDF. How I do that? Very simply, I can click on annotate. Now the PDF editor opens up on this PDF document, and I can now add in text by simply choosing add text, coming over, clicking on the box, and now I can type in what the text is or should. Oh, whoops, there we go. Or actually here, we're just going to put my client's name, Leo Herrera. Right? So now I can type in their name on this form, or I can type in whatever else needs to go on this form. Or maybe we redact areas out of the form. Now, I personally would not redact anything because I'm not a lawyer, and I would not recommend any non-lawyer to take out terms of a contract without first talking to somebody that can do that, right? Because the verbiage in a contract is already there for a reason. How about the signature line? That's going to be done through the e-signature process, Francis. But at least I can put their information on that form, on that PDF document, and save it and then send it out for signatures. I just need to still place where that signature needs to go on the PDF. And I can do that for all the pages. I can even, after I save this, split this document. And what I mean by split means that I can take the page or split up the document for its pages. So maybe I just need the one page, split, and then, well, I guess that needs the upgrade. So I guess you can't do that right now. That's all right. But we can do that. And we'll go over how to add those today too. So that's how easy it is to make a transaction, add forms to a transaction, add documents to a transaction. Before we go over the digital signing portion, I do want to show a couple of cool things here. Templates. Somebody had asked about templates earlier. How do I create a template? When I log into, and what is a template? For those of you who don't know what a template is, basically a template is a way to be able to compile a list of forms required for a particular type of transaction, typically transactions that you constantly do all the time, that you have to use the same forms or a majority of the same forms over and over again. And the beautiful thing about a template is that you can put in some predetermined information that you always try to negotiate for 90% of the clients. Typically, what I like is making sure that your name, your email address, your company name, and things like that that don't change are always printed on the form. That way you can easily apply a template to a transaction, which now saves you minutes, like on an average about 20 to 25 minutes per transaction. So how do we make a template? Very easy. Here, looking at the transaction list, I'm just going to move my mouse over towards the upper right corner, click on my initials. From here, we get that drop-down menu, typically where I could go to my account settings to access my account. But down below, there is a choice here that says transaction templates. When I click on transaction templates, this will now give me a list of all my created templates that I currently have. If you have none, this will be blank. To make one, very simply, come over to the top right corner here where it says create new template and click. Now I'm going to name the template. Now I want to name it something very simple, right? Templates versus transactions is this. Templates are client property generic. Transactions are client property specific. Okay. So what I want is to be able to apply my template to any future transactions of that type. So if I want to create a listing template, maybe I want to name the template something very simple like seller or listing or standard sale, right? If it was for REO, I'm creating an REO template because I'm an REO specialist, maybe REO sale or REO purchase. If I'm creating a purchase template, I call it purchase, buyer, standard sale purchase, short sale purchase, REO purchase, whatever, right? Once I've named it, now I can say create a template, choosing the transaction type, who it's being shared with, in this case, just me, because I should be the only person that's accessing my own templates. Or if I have my TC or assistant helping me, share it with everyone. Now from here, I'm now going to go through and add the documents. Now, how do I know what forms need to go into this template? Hopefully you work at a company where the broker or office manager has given you a list of forms required for all your files. If you're ever listing a property, they usually give you a checklist. If you're buying a property or doing a purchase, they usually give you a checklist. Take that checklist and go through this list of forms. Click on the form that you need, find the next form. Right? Find everything that you need to get this transaction started. Okay. Now, once you add them, now go in and type in some of your generic information. What's some of your generic information? Well, your name, your company, your DRE license number. But then what we're going to do is we're going to put in some generic terms that we always negotiate for about 90% of our clients. Like in this case, for a listing, how many days do I take the listing, or how many months do I take a listing? Do I take it for so many months or so many days, right? Put that in there. Okay. Who pays for what, buyer or seller? Things like that. Or maybe my standard commission, right? I go, oh, as the listing price, I'm not going to worry about that. The listing terms, personal items excluded, maybe agrees to pay the compensating broker. I always like to be generous with the brokers that I work with, and I'm only going to offer them, the 1%. But my commission, I think my commission is, where is that? Somewhere up around here. pays the broker as like, oh, there we go. My compensation. There we go. So this is for me. So I always charge 9%. Maybe you like to charge 10%. Maybe you want to charge, I don't know, 75%. And of course, for the buying broker, compensation wise, we're only going to give 1%. Whatever you need. Okay. Save your information. So now at this point, when we go to create a transaction, after we put in all that generic information, now when we go to create a new transaction for our clients, okay, (92653). Now we're going to be asked here at this point, after we, as we're making this transaction for the listing side, and we're choosing the status, we're now asked to apply a template. Now, once we apply the template, or now when we click on the down arrow, we now find the template that we need. We select it, and then as we continue on, all those forms, all those generic terms are now automatically applied to this transaction. Okay. I'm going to add in Gloria, and of course, I'm going to add in let's sure. Now, when I hit continue, we're going to see here at some point that when I go to the documents area, so instead of me now going to where I need to add the forms, we can now jump immediately over to the documents area. After this has been created, all the information's been here, we can just simply go to documents, and we're going to see all those forms pre-applied. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and type in the specifics of this transaction. So now the property address will be in here, the client's name will be in here, but maybe some of my generic terms change. Like in this case, instead of a 6-month listing period, maybe we knock it down to 4 months. Maybe instead of a 75% commission, you know what, I want to cut this client a break. I'm only going to charge them 15%. You know, things like that. But you'll notice I didn't have to go to add documents, find the documents, then bring everything over and then start typing in all the specifics, right? I can quickly and easily modify this form based on what I've already typed in that may be needed. If this was a purchase, then what I can do is maybe change some of those terms, like who pays for what, buyer or seller, how many days escrow, you know, the deposit amount, whatever that's needed for this specific transaction. Maybe instead of a loan, this client wants to offer all cash. I can now easily, quickly submit that. Now, templates, again, even with zipForms, saves you anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes per transaction. So if my client today wanted to be, you know, making 4 or 5 offers, 20 minutes per transaction that I'm saving, saves me a good hour, 20 minutes to my life. Now I can eat, sleep, shower, shave, do whatever else I need. Are there any questions on templates? Any questions on transactions? Looks pretty fun, right? Would you recommend start utilizing Glide instead of zipForms? Maybe. I would definitely try it out. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Some of the things that we're going to go over today, hopefully in the next hour here, will be how easy it is to digitally sign them using their digital signing tool, for sure. That's going to help with when you do the PEAD request or even the seller disclosure request. So at least those two modules, the seller disclosure and the PEAD, is bar none easy. If you want to try it out for a transaction, I think it's a really useful tool. I think the one thing that at least maybe you've noticed here is how simple everything is, right? If I hop over into zipForms real quick, you're going to see that even though we're all used to doing this, the one thing that I find really discouraging with zipForms is they have a ton of tools. I love the tools that zipForms has, but there are so many tools that I understand why agents feel overwhelmed, right? I like the way the flow of zipForms is. I like a lot of the tools that zipForms does have to offer. My only discouraging thing about it is that they're constantly changing. They've got a lot of hiccups all of a sudden in their product that has been really disappointing, and especially with their digital signing platform. That wasn't the case back in April when they first released it. So for some strange reason, they've gotten it to be a little bit more complicated. Yes, I can still access all my templates. I can access my transactions. I have really great tools in here. Glide is working on getting some of these tools implemented into their program, like RPR, like Forms Advisor, access to Forms Tutor. Here we've got more menu choices defaulted into the summary, going into a document, more menu choices, even more menu choices when I select a form. But now when I go into a form, we've got even more tools here that you may or may not utilize. And again, there are a lot of useful tools here. I think if you're a brand new agent, you're first starting out, I think you're going to maybe like Glide just for the simplistic avenues that this has. New tools are coming up. New tools will be released, but eventually, I think if given a choice, something super simple or something that you're just used to, it just comes down to user preference, Francis. Do both platforms interact with each other? Unfortunately, they do not. Whatever I create here does not autofill in or is accessible by zipForms. And same thing, whatever I create in zipForms is not automatically acceptable or accessible by Glide. They are now two separate platforms. The big thing that I see happening is because zipForms is under new management, new ownership by this company, Lone Wolf, they have really upped their fees to associations and brokers. And what I mean by associations, to the state association. Give you a perfect example. zipForms has what they call the broker edition. And prior to this year, the broker edition used to cost a broker $500 per year to have unlimited agents access their broker account for them to monitor and do things at the office. This is really popular and still popular with some of the larger companies like the Berkshire Hathaways, the First Teams, the Realty Ones, so on and so forth that utilize this. Unfortunately, since the new purchase by Lone Wolf and C.A.R. is no longer involved in this decision making because they sold their portion to Lone Wolf, it was with the understanding of the things wouldn't necessarily change. Well, that's not necessarily the case. New management discovers, geez, we've got an opportunity to now raise our fees. So the one broker office that I know of, and I won't name names here because of privacy, was used to paying $500 for their one office for their 90 agents to access the broker edition of zipForms. This year, however, that same office, 90 agents still, one brokerage, has now been sent a bill by zipForms for $2,900. So they have substantially raised their fees. They have now put that, broker offices on this tiered program of how many number of users, this is what they're going to be charged. Well, if they've raised it that much on one brokerage office with less than 100 agents, can you imagine what they've sent C.A.R. in the way of billing. So C.A.R. quickly understanding this has started to look at other platforms like Glide to offer this as another choice to maybe eventually get rid of zipForms. I think as as Glide gets better and better throughout the year, I think come next year, C.A.R. is really going to look at cost for their agents and how many users. So I think, oh, and by the way, Francis, that's all dependent upon how many agents are in that office. So if it's one independent broker, realtor that wants zipForms as the broker edition rather than their free account, I think it's $500. But then it just tiers up depending on how many users or how many people they have in their office, and they're charged this crazy fee. So I will tell you that another office that I know of that's got multiple offices was just sent a bill from Lone Wolf for $50,000. So it's up there. It's quite up there. Now, granted, I still love zipForms. I still think it's an amazing tool. I will never bag on how well their tool is, but it's definitely something that they need to, they need to be aware of. Now, Glide does have a broker edition of of Glide that will do pretty much the same thing as the broker edition of zipForms, but I do not know the cost. I will say that this year it is currently free. I don't know what it's going to be for next year. That's something that the broker should discuss with Glide if they want the broker edition. I would say at least try out the free account right now if you're a broker to see what it's like. Let's see here. Let's go over digital signing documents. I think this is going to be a really fun thing. So we want to digitally sign documents. We've typed up our contracts, right? We've now got everything written up. Now what we want to do is send these contracts out for signatures to get our offer submitted. How we do that? Very simply. From the documents area, after we've modified the forms, come over here to the left-hand side, click on where it says signatures. From here, we're now going to start a new signature request. Now, in zipForms, you have two platforms. You have Digital Ink, you have DocuSign. Now, the big differences between Digital Ink and DocuSign is that DocuSign is a third-party vendor. That third-party vendor typically charges you about $400 or $250 per year to do unlimited signatures, okay? Digital Ink is absolutely free, is included in your zipForms platform. Oops, sorry about that. I keep hitting my microphone. Is automatically included in your zipForms platform. Most of us are used to using either Digital Ink or DocuSign. Now, here with Glide, you do have your DocuSign choice, so you can link your DocuSign account if you choose. So just simply type in what your DocuSign account is. So if you are using DocuSign, you can choose to use that if you choose. And of course, I've got an email for a verification code, so bear with me here. Just going to simply type that verification code here real quick. 144619. Confirm. And now I have linked, or will have linked, my DocuSign account with my Glide account. So like zipForms, I can link my DocuSign account with zipForms. Here in Glide, I can link that account as well. Now, if you don't want to pay $250 per year for DocuSign, Glide has developed its own free signature platform called Glide Signatures. Now, if you're like me and you're on a tight budget, I like to take advantage of all my free stuff where I can, when I can. Leave it at Glide Signatures. Now, I will tell you that Glide Signatures, from what I can tell so far, is far superior so far to even Digital Ink. I thought Digital Ink 2.0 was really good as compared to DocuSign, but I think that Glide is even more superior than DocuSign. And I think that's a super easy to use program. So select your Glide signatures. This is really great for those of you doing the PED request through C.A.R MLS. From here, what I can now do is, after I choose the signature platform I'm going to use, I come down below and I can now select what documents in the transaction need to be digitally signed. So here I'm choosing that PDF document and I'm choosing the RPA. Now from here, what I can also do is automatically add the signature tabs to the forms if it detects where those need to go. But there is a choice here that says replace the original with the signed document, meaning the editable form will now have the digital areas signed, which now prevents me from ever modifying that form ever again. I'm going to make sure that I leave that uncheck marked. What I want is a separate PDF file along with the editable form in case I need to modify that form for whatever reason. Maybe I made a mistake on a number. Maybe the client, after they sign it, go, you know what, Tony, before you submit it, let's talk about this because I want to change it. Do not replace the original editable form. Now I'm going to hit continue. Now I'm going to be asked who needs to sign the form. In this case, it indicates me, the agent, my buyer 1, and buyer 2. Now, the way it stands right now, as long as my clients have separate email addresses, this will send it automatically to everyone all at once. Eventually, there will be a choice here that will say first signature, second signature, meaning that in the order is how the email will be placed. If they do share one email address, then Leo will get the email first before Gloria needs to sign the document. So if husband and wife share one email address, this means that only one person or whoever is the first person here in my order list will get the email first. So it's advantageous to have separate email addresses. Now, if for whatever reason and for demo purposes, we were going to take out 2 of these signers, I'm going to leave Leo here. But say I want to make sure that the agent and my TC or my office manager or my assistant get a copy of the signed document. What I can now do is add in a recipient like the listing agent. From here, I can now type in their name. First name, last name, and their email address. Actually, now from here, what I can do is that I'm not going to make Leo, the listing agent, sign my offer. I can't force him to do that until he's reviewed it with his clients. But what I do want to do is click on the down arrow here and CC him. Now, the power of the CC is this. After all signers are done signing the document, anybody who has signed the document will get an automatic copy of the signed documents, but any recipient that has been put on the CC list will also get a copy of the signed document at the end of everyone's signatures. So buyer 1, buyer 2, and the buying agent will automatically get a signed copy of everybody's signatures on the documents. And if I add the recipient, like the listing agent, for them to get a CC on the document, they are automatically sent the offer or the signed contract within 30 seconds of the last signer. So here I can now include the listing agent as a recipient to receive a copy of the signed documents. Now, when I hit continue, Glide Signatures is going to open up, whereby I can now review very quickly where the signature areas are going to be pre-placed or place any that need to be placed. So here, as an example, we're in the purchase agreement. We see over here at the top left corner, we have Leo Loera. If we need to switch between our signers, we can now click on the down arrow and select the next signers to click and drag their tasks. But we're going to see here that Leo Luera already has a signature and a date box pre-added in on this form, in that form, in that form, in that form. So what we can do is very quickly and easily go through and double check everything. Now, if we needed to, we could add in an extra initial or signature box somewhere. So maybe if I wanted to, I could add in, oh, I don't know, let's see, on this area, their signature. I can now click and hold, drag and place. If I go to that PDF document, so this is going to help you, Francis. If I go to that PDF document, like that RPA, I can now select the signer, click and hold on their task, drag it to where it needs to go, and let go. And now I've just placed a digital area on that document. I can even add in a date box. I can add initial boxes or check boxes or whatever I need. Now, once I'm done, I now come down below to the bottom right corner, click on continue. I can type up a message here. Leo Luera needs a sign. Leo Luera is going to receive a copy as the agent. Now, when I hit continue, in 3, 2, 1, the email has now been sent off to my client. That's how easy it is to send it out. Now, if we go into our email real quickly, we see here that in about 30 seconds or less, we should get an email request from Glide. Please sign the RPA residential purchase agreement. When I click on that, we now just follow the prompts. So Leo Herrera sees that there are 2 documents that need to be signed and or initialed. He clicks review documents. So far, just as easy as DocuSign, just as easy as digital ink. The document's going to open up here, whereby they agree to the terms of usage, and they're going to hit start. Now, what they can do, or what we notice here, is that down at the bottom right corner, how many signature areas or how many things that the signer needs to complete. They have 20 things they need to do. They can scroll down to the very first area and click sign. From here, they have one font style to choose from. They just say approve and sign. And once they do that, they're now down at the bottom of the PRBS. They click wire fraud, fair housing, page 1, so on and so forth. There's that extra signature spot that I added in on the RPA. Now we're back to the initials, so on and so forth. So we see how easy it is. Now, my disclaimer, should somebody just sign and not read it, what it is that they're signing? This is where it's important for you as an agent to make sure that they go through and read everything before they apply their signatures and initials. Okay. Michelle goes, nice. That's not available in zipForms, right? What's not available? How Glide signatures? No. zipForms has digital ink, which is your free service. So here we're going to sign. We're going to be almost done here. We're going to get to that PDF document. There's that one signature. Now we just need to hit finish. The moment we hit finish, off to the next signer if necessary, or even better yet, we're now sent the email notifications. All the CCs are now sent all their signed PDF documents. So what happens here? When we now go back to the transaction, we're sent an email that the documents are complete. When we now go back to the documents area here, we're now going to see that there's a signed PDF document that says signed, signed. Now what I can do is click on that PDF, and now I can review my client's signatures. Now at this point, I could choose, if I didn't CC the listing agent, I can now come over here to the top, click on email, and email this document as a PDF to my client or to the agent. Yes, the CC option is available in zipForms digital ink. You just have to add the person to do that, which is over at the top left corner as you're selecting the signers. So it's not as easy as it is here in Glide, or it's not as easy in digital ink as it is in Glide to add in a CC. But if you're using digital ink, all the signers automatically get a copy signed. And a copy of the signed contract is uploaded immediately, actually within a minute to 5 minutes within the transaction. It used to be 30 seconds. So I think for some reason that's now been delayed by 5 minutes. And in some cases 10, depending on how many documents. Here, it automatically got re-uploaded back into Glide. Does that help, Michelle? And again, there's that signed PDF of the PDF, and there's that signature on this PDF file. Awesome. All right, let's see here. Real quickly, sending out sellers disclosures, workflow. This is only available in a listing transaction. So here, when we click on this transaction for the listing side, there will be a choice here to prepare the disclosure package. So what's nice is the differential between the listing side and the buyer side is that the buyer side will not have a choice that says prepare the disclosure package. Let's see here. Alina asks, adding signatures and text to PDF are also available in zipForms e-sign. That is correct. It's just a little bit more of a hassle to add that. Here, you can edit the PDF in Glide. You can't edit the PDF in zipForms, but you can add in text boxes and signatures through Glide signatures, just like you can in digital ink. So in a way, Glide has a little bit more options for you in choosing to edit the PDF file before you place the signature areas on that PDF. And then could you show how Glide combines all the documents in one when sending to somebody? I do believe that's pretty simple. If I were to go back to my documents and I go to, where is it? I think I can choose email. From here, what I can now do is add in that signed PDF. So I got 2 here. And then I do believe, is there a choice here to combine them? There isn't. I don't think there is a choice to combine them. And I don't know why you would combine the PDF files. You can send them out as separate PDFs, which is great for the other agent because now they don't have to separate out the PDF files. Does that make sense, Alina? I think the more documents you combine, that one PDF file gets larger and larger, which now you can run into size limitations. Not that you wouldn't here with too many attachments, but the chances of that are nil. I think a separated out PDF file of the 2 separate documents is important just because it's easier for the other agent not to have to separate out the documents themselves. The other agent often asks to receive offers all in one. So I can include all this in one email, right? I can put in the purchase agreement, their proof of funds, their earnest money deposit, their lender from their lender. I can put all those as separate attachments in one email. All from here. Now, I don't think that you can combine them in that state from here. I don't think so. Replace, yeah, no. But let's double check. Whoops. If I select them, there is a choice here. I'm sorry. So I was wrong. So Alina, this is how you would do it. So here with the 2 PDF files, the RPA and the that data file here, I can select both of them. And then down below, there is an option here to merge the two documents. So now I can now merge them into one. When I say OK, this now, and this may take it a bit, now all of a sudden we've got the offer package as another PDF. So if we look at that, it's a 28-page PDF file. And unfortunately, it doesn't give us an opportunity to reorder everything, but maybe it does here. Oh, good, it does. So we can now take the documents and switch pages around. And then save it and close it and then send it on out. Yes, Francis, I learned something new today too. Oh, you're welcome, Alina. Cindy asks, can you move forms to a certain order in a listing template that you can create? Yes, you can reorder the forms. You can even do that in the transaction. Just simply hover over top of the form, click and hold, drag it above and let go. So if you wanted to do that in your template, you can do that as well. Just simply click on transaction templates there over at the top right corner, select your template. To open it up, just click on the name. Here are the forms. So now I can click and hold, drag and move those forms around. Does that help, Cindy? Awesome. All right. So now let's quickly send out the seller disclosure package workflow for a listing. So say we got the listing agreement signed. Now we got to get the seller to do their disclosures. This is one of the things that I think is far superior in Glide than it is in zipForms. zipForms does have the share button, and of course it's got the digital signing. Here you can digitally sign this document, which, by the way, the digital signing Glide signatures will allow them to fill out that form. DocuSign will. Glide signatures won't. But this is where this disclosure package comes in. Here, when I go to the prepared disclosure package, I can now say prepare the seller's disclosures. Now I'm going to walk through the workflow. Here we have the TDS SPQ, or I can add in the other forms, like maybe the TDS isn't pertinent because this is an absentee owner. I can select the ESD instead. Okay. For simplistic sakes, we're just going to take out the TDS or the SPQ and leave in just the TDS. From here, we go continue. Do I have any other documents that I need to upload? Like my Avid or other disclosures that I might have discovered from title, I can upload those. Or in this case, I have no items personally to disclose on this property. Here, am I aware if the property is in an HOA? Now, I do not know why they have the I don't know choice here. You as a listing agent should know if that property that you're listing already is in an HOA, yes or no. This I don't know thing, I don't get it. But maybe in this case, no, it's not. It is a single family resident. We now go to continue. Here, we're going to now select who needs to fill out the form. Now, unlike Digital Ink or DocuSign, only Seller 1 has the capability of filling out that form. Here, however, in Glide, Seller 1 and Seller 2 both have the capability of filling out the forms. Now, here's the catch, though. Only one person can modify that form at any given time because you're editing a lifetime document. Okay? So if Catherine happens to get into the email first, she can begin to edit the form. Gloria cannot edit the form while Catherine's modifying it. But if Catherine saves her work and she exits, then Gloria can go in and modify the form. Now, here's the catch. If we've got Seller 1 and Seller 2 both filling out the form, it's very easy for one person to overwrite what the other person put in. So it's probably a good idea to only give one person access to that form. They can decide who amongst themselves who does this. They need to notify you. Now, in this case, if Gloria wants to fill out the form and Catherine's okay with it, but Catherine says, I want to see what Gloria fills in, then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change Catherine from fills out form to won't fill. This means that Catherine has the ability to review what Gloria has filled in, okay, to make sure that Gloria fills it in correctly. Or maybe Catherine goes, you know what, I don't need to review the form at all. Take me out. I don't want to be part of that process. Let Gloria do it all. Now, in certain cases, if there are more than one seller, we can add in the other people for them to either review it or fill out the form too. But again, more people that fill out the form, chances are the answers are going to change. Okay. Again, for simplistic sakes here, we're going to take out Catherine. We can even add in other parties like the TC, the other agent to review, or the listing broker. Now we're going to hit continue. From here, we've got an email pre-set up. We can type in this box, make it a little bit more personable. And now all we need to do is hit send. By the way, has everybody tried this out? Doing this for their sellers? Oh, by the way, you can also order NHD reports from Glide. They give you several options like Disclosure Source, My NHD, Core Logic, NHD Go, First American. You can purchase that through them. Their prices range anywhere from, what is this, 75 or, oh, wow, this is a new one. Snap NHD, $70 up to $150 or $125 roughly to get their NHD reports. But if you don't need it, don't worry, just close this out. So now what should happen here is that the seller now gets an email from you. Please complete. Anthony Bried via Glide is asking you to complete the seller's disclosures. The seller clicks on it. They now click on begin the disclosure process. And now they're going to take this form, and instead of looking at the form in its entirety, where people 9 times out of 10 feel overwhelmed because they see all the check boxes, all the lines, everything, and they tend to shut down. What's now going to happen, and whoops, I need to exit out of that. And I need to go into my other account. So let's try this again. So when the client clicks on this, they're now going to be asked to create a username and password. Okay. So the client for free can make a username and password, which is great because if they have any questions or they need to fix anything on the disclosures, they can now go back in to their account and modify the TDS and or SPQ. Okay. So from here, we're going to type in their, they type in their username, they type in a password. From here, what will now happen is, and because this is my demo account, it's asking me this the first time, to fill out the seller's disclosures. We're going to get started. Now, once we do this, they're going to agree to the terms of usage. Now, what we're doing now is we're filling out the disclosure. We're not signing them. Sorry, I just got my leg fell asleep there. So what we're now doing is we're having the client fill out the disclosure. Now, what's cool about this is that they're not signing anything yet until we have a chance to review it. Okay, so there's going to be less chance of having this redundancy resend situation because they didn't fill out something correctly the first time. And trust me, when they go through this process, the chances of them filling out something incorrectly becomes very, very minimal or small. But here, right away, it reminds them that legally, if they improperly disclose, they could face lawsuits that could cost them lots of money. Okay, so they need to be aware of that. Now, here it says go to the premium. They don't need to worry about that. Just simply click on free. When they do that, they read through the terms of usage. They accept the terms, their disclaimer. And now right away, we're about to get started. Here's what forms you're going to complete. In this case, the TDS, but they would have here the TDS, SPQ, and whatever else. They hit begin. Right away, there are 48 questions in the TDS or transfer disclosure statement that a seller needs to fill out. Now, although a lot of people go, wow, there's 48 questions, that seems quite overwhelming. Trust me, it's not in this format. If we click on get started, they agree to the terms again. Now, right away, we're going to break this down into a simple 1, 2, 3, 4-step process. Step number 1, we're starting with the substitute of disclosures. It asks the seller right out of the gate, just like in the regular form, or just like the regular form that everybody seems to ignore. Do you have any disclosures from your previous sale? Go get them. If you have them, great. If not, we just simply select no. Now we're going to start with section A, the property items that are in the house. When they click continue, the very first question that everybody seems to skip over and a lot of agents kind of get upset is the seller forgets to answer question number 1, which is right above the property items. Do you occupy the property? Yes or no? Hopefully they say yes. Now, by the way, if they were to answer no, it's going to say you're probably not supposed to fill out this form. If they are not understanding the question, they can flag that question or that section, write what question they have, which now the system will automatically email me, the agent in charge of what the question is. Now I will prompt myself to call the client. Now I usually say, agents, do you just sit back and let the client just fill out the form and you don't talk to them? No. Give the client a call. Hey, I want to walk you through this process. I'll sit on the phone. So if you have any questions, I can answer them right then and there. Okay. But very simply, what items are in the house? Right? Range, oven, microwave, dishwasher, garbage disposal, washer dryer hookups, 220 volt. HVAC, heating, air. Sewage, public. Water, city. Utilities, gas. Water heater. Yes, I do have a water heater. It's gas. Safety. Well, I've got carbon monoxide smoke detectors, and of course, I got bars on my windows. Exterior, I've got a garage. I don't have anything else. Miscellaneous, I've got a pool and a hot tub. And of course, any other items like, oh, I don't know, let's go with meth lab in the backyard. Now, hopefully not everybody has something like that, but you never know. Here is there because I answered that I have window or security bars on my windows, it immediately asked me this question. Do you have a quick release mechanism on the bedroom windows? No, I don't. As a matter of fact, I don't like anybody getting out of my house. Is there a garage attached to the property? Yes or no? Do I have an automatic garage door opener? Or does the door automatically open? And then, of course, how many door openers do I have? 5, just because I found them the other day because I keep losing them and refinding them, so I keep buying new ones. Is there a locking safety cover on the hot tub? Yes or no? Child restraint barrier on the pool? No, because, geez, I don't allow kids in my home. Where's the 220 volt wiring? Garage and second bedroom. Here we go. What type of roof? So if you'll notice here, doesn't this look super easy for a seller now? So instead of looking at that entire form where they see all these questions and all this other stuff, where they seem overwhelmed, we are now taking this form and easily digesting this form to be able to answer these questions very easily and effortlessly. Anybody like this? couple of you. Good. Excellent. Oh, we have a couple of questions here. Yes, Francis. Awesome. I'm so glad you like this. All right. Here we go to, do we know of any properties that have any defects or that aren't in operating condition? We answer it. We now go to continue. We're done with section A. We're now starting with section B, all the malfunctions. Well, how funny. We just said that there's nothing wrong with the items in the house, right? But now we are asked, are there any significant defects with the foundation slab or anything? Nope. Everything is perfect. We go to continue. Interior, everything's perfect. We go to continue. Are we aware of any significant defects with the electrical systems, plumbing? Nope. Not as far as we know. Now we're going to start off with section C, all those fun little questions. Now here as you answer these, if for some reason out of section C, if somebody answers yes, they now need to give an explanation. If for some crazy reason I skip over a question by mistake because I'm going through this too fast, what's going to happen is the system won't let me complete this without notifying me that not all the answers were completed. So we'll demonstrate this here in just a second. So I'm just going to answer these very quickly. Is don't know answer okay? Not if it's a yes or no answer. There is no choice here to say, I don't know. And a seller should know are they aware of flood problems, right? And I don't know answer is a no. If they do know, then they should disclose it. Does that help, Michelle? Yes, awesome. It's like, it just helps out. They have to give a definitive answer. And again, if they don't know, then they should answer no. They shouldn't just try to guess. And usually like things like electrical problems or things like that are pretty noticeable in your own house. Right? Like you go into that one room, the light's flickering. Maybe you should call an electrician. All right, so here we are done. Now, once we're done, or when you think we're done, the system automatically said, hey, Tony, by the way, you skipped 2 questions. Do you want to answer them now or later? Yes, I want to answer those now because I want to complete this. So now I'm going to answer both those questions. And the moment I'm done, the system now is going to look at everything. I can preview it if I want to, but when I hit continue, excuse me, I can now review this document before I submit it back to the agent. So now this is what seller 1 is going to see. They're going to review this document. So now this is what the TDS looks like in C.A.R. Right? So all those simplified style questions that we just answered is not 5, 10, 15 pages long. It's the 4 pages long document. It's just everything's been shortly, easily compiled here. Now, once we're done, we can now submit this back to the listing agent. And in less than 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it should now go right back to the agent and say it's complete. So now we can hit done and get out of this. So now what happens here? We're going to log back into our Glide account as the agent. So the agent account, we come up. The agent gets an email. Hey, your client has successfully completed the seller's disclosures inside of 30 seconds inside this transaction. I can now go into this transaction here, hopefully. Look at my documents. And I can see here that at the TDS, when I click on it, even though I do see that PDF file there, we're going to see here, whoops, didn't mean that. We're going to fill in manually. The fill in manually allows me to fill in the sections that I, as the agent, am allowed to fill in, like address, or on page 3 here, extra information that I discovered. But down below here are all the answers that the agent or the client has now filled in. Okay. So now when I've reviewed this, now all I need to do is come over here to the top right corner, click on sign, send it out for signatures. If I like everything that I see here because I've reviewed it, I can now come over to the top right corner, click sign, or back here at all the documents, come over to where it says signatures and start the signature process. Anybody like this? Anybody have any questions on this? Francis asks, I wonder why the seller doesn't sign after filling it out. What this does, it allows me to review what it is. So instead of them signing it and then having things filled in incorrectly, where now I've got to resend out the request again, if for some crazy reason I happen to go in here and I noticed that they marked, instead of the water heater as gas, they marked electric. And I happened to walk through the property with my own Avid. And I said, hey, Gloria, I think you might have marked the wrong water heater. You marked electric, but I noticed that it's a gas water heater. You may want to double check that, right? She now goes in and goes, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. Or, geez, you know what? I accidentally submitted that it was a public sewer system, but yet we have a septic tank. What I can now do is tell her, okay, go back and log in to your Glide account that you just created. And from there, she can now re-edit this TDS. Now, once she's done and she submits it again, it's going to overwrite any of her answers. Now I can review it and say, okay, I'm now going to send it to you for signatures. So this is a good way of being able to review something before being committed and and then have to redo things again. So much better than zipForms. Definitely. I think the share button in zipForms tries to do something along the same lines, except that they look at all the form in its entirety. So this may require several edits before sending out for signatures in zipForms. So I like that choice too. Are there any other questions? Have I overwhelmed everybody today? I see one yes. Excellent. Sorry about that. Do you guys want me to show you one last thing here with Glide? Probably the PEAD feature. No, great info. Excellent, Cindy. I've been very helpful. Thank you very much, Michelle. Do you guys want me to go over the PEAD form through zipForms? Or I'm sorry, through MLS? Not from you? Okay, not a problem. Anybody else? Because I can go over that too. We've got about 12 minutes. Yes, please. All right, Martha, we can do that. All right, so one of the beautiful things I like about this, or one of the other nice things, is that through MLS, we can now do the buyer prospecting, excuse me. So what does that mean? That means that I can now be logged into C.A.R. MLS and send out direct requests on listings to my buyer or visitor to view the property, right? Getting the PEAD form done very quickly and easily. And one of the advantages of that is that using Glide, or using this tool through C.A.R. MLS, the listing agent is automatically sent a copy of the signed document after the client signs it. So let's log in here again. So I'm just going to log in, OC, oops, wrong password. Too many passwords to try to remember here today. All right, so I'm in MLS. My client gives me a list of properties they want to see. So maybe in this case, we want to see Newport Beach. And let's put in a dollar amount, 950 to 1 million. Actually, okay. So here we got our list of properties. Now, typically what you guys are doing right now is going into the listing. From here, you're probably looking at showing time to get the property set up on a showing. You're also looking at the showing instructions, to which everybody needs that PEAD form done. Now, when we go into a property just like so, there is a choice here in the agent full report that's right underneath the map called Use PEAD in Glide during COVID-19. So what we're now doing is setting up the buyer prospect workflow to allow the buyer to sign the PEAD and the listing agent to be automatically copied on that PEAD. So all we need to do here is just simply click on that choice. Now we're automatically uploaded into our Glide account, to which we're now going to follow the simple, easy step process. Here we're going to select our visitors. So maybe I've got, I create a new buyer prospect. I'm going to add in myself as the buying agent because I need to accompany my client. If I needed to, I can add in my co-agent with me, my partner. Now, when I hit continue, we're going to add the buyer. So we click on create a new buyer. They're the individual. First name, last name, and their email address. Now we hit save. If we have the other buyer, like the buyer's spouse, create a new buyer, individual. First name, last name, and their email address. Again, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Now, as we all know, or you may not know, on the PEAD form, there are spots for 3 signers, right? 2 visitors plus me as the agent, okay? So if I have more than one buyer going to see this one property, then there will be 2 separate PEAD forms, one with the 2 buyers' names on it plus mine, and then a secondary form with the 3rd buyer's name and my name on it, okay? So we've got individual PEAD forms for more than 2 buyers, okay? Also, when we hit continue, we're going to see here that we've got the one property that we already selected from within the MLS system, okay? Now, if we were visiting more than just the one, and by the way, if I click on the one here, we see the property address, but down below here, it says listing agent. And with this box selected, the listing agent will automatically be sent the signed PEAD once it's done. And it's got the listing agent's name, first name, last name, and their email address. Okay. Now, if we were seeing more than one property today, simply click on add a property and now type in the next property. Well, how do I know what the next property is? Back here at the MLS, I can jump over to the next listing. I've got their address right here, so I can go back and forth, type it in, and down below, I've got the listing agent name and the listing agent email address. So from here, I can add in all that information. Now, this is what's going to happen though. Say with these 2 buyers, we have the one PEAD form for the one address. Now in zipForms, I can add in as many addresses on the one PEAD form for my 2 clients. But here's the problem. When I submit that one PEAD form to all those listing agents, each and every one of those listing agents knows exactly where my client and I are going to be at each or on that day, right? Which now all of a sudden they are aware of where my client is visiting. Okay. At least in this method, if I'm adding in properties, these are individual PED forms to just the listing agent for this property. So in this case, my buyer 1 and buyer 2, if I keep adding in properties, they're going to sign separate PED forms for each and every individual property. But what's nice is no other agent knows exactly what other property my client is visiting that day. I do because I'm their agent, but the listing agent doesn't know that I'm seeing this other property, and these two agents don't know that I'm seeing a third or a fourth or a fifth property. They all have their own independent PED form. Now, when we hit continue, here we've got our visitor list, myself, my clients. In those certain circumstances that maybe, geez, Leo and Gloria are actually in escrow and they have an inspection coming up, I can actually add in another entrant like the inspector. So put in their name, put in their email address, and of course their role. They're another entrant. So what you guys should be doing is a PED form anytime you guys are in escrow on a property and you need to have that inspector come to the property. And usually during an inspection, the clients are revisiting the property anyway. So you're doing this PED form with all 3 visitors. Okay. Now, when we hit continue, we're now going to go through the e-signing process. So it's now generating this as a PDF, at which point from here, we can send it for signatures either through the Glide signature platform or the DocuSign platform. What's nice about this is that if I choose the Glide signature platform, the digital areas have been pre-placed for my buyers on this PED form. And at the end of the day, after everybody is done signing the document, the listing agent or listing agents, depending on how many properties you're doing this for, are automatically given the PED form within 30 seconds of the last signer. Anybody like that? Did that help, Martha? Love this. Excellent, Cindy. I'm so glad that you like it. Awesome. You're welcome, Martha. Well, that's pretty much Glide in a nutshell. So at this point, you guys can start using Glide. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. Activate your free account, start playing with it a little bit more, try a couple of transactions and see what it's like. One of the really nice things about Glide, or one of the many nice things about Glide, is that I can create as many transactions as I want. So you can try out some of the tools, try out some of the signatures, and make yourself the signer, make yourself the seller or the buyer, just to see what it's kind of like. Oh, and by the way, say as an example, that buyer prospect we just created, they now all of a sudden want to create a transaction because they now want to make an offer on a property. We don't necessarily need to start at the transactions level here. What you can do is go under buyer prospects, select the buyer prospect, right? And now what we're going to do is convert this buyer prospect into an active transaction. So now what I can do is upload their information plus the property information to now create a purchase transaction, because we've got all that done. And it's just a real simple thing. Convert it into an active transaction and follow the workflow. So it's just a real easy tool all of a sudden to maintain order in our transactional lives with our various different clients. Anybody like that? Any more questions on Glide? Oh, I see a bunch of questions here. I love the PED feature. Awesome, Francis. Yes. You might show something I don't know about soon. Oh, yes. So yes, you are going to get a copy of the recording, Francis, probably this time tomorrow or before this time tomorrow. You should get a copy of this recording. And of course, if you do have any questions, feel free to You can call me or email me my email address, and I'll type it here in the box, and I'm going to bring up my slide. My email is Tony, Tony, at ocrealtors.org, or call me at 949-586-6800, extension 104. And that's my information. I usually work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I do teach a lot of classes, so usually email is the best way to get a hold of me. But if you guys don't have any other questions, I want to thank everybody for attending today. Thank you for sticking with me for 2 hours, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. And I will talk to you all very, very soon. Have a great night, and I will talk to you later. You're welcome, Alina.